Hello, everyone. Rachel Jensen here. Welcome to this week's session of our In the Inbox series. This is when we answer questions that have been sent to us via email, what's up, asked on the phone about the real estate process here in Belize and just real estate generally. So we're in question number 92 today, and it was asked by Peter. Peter said, how quickly can I close on a property in Belize? Great question. So what we're going to do first is quickly review the closing process, and then we're going to dig a little bit deeper into this. And it is important for you to understand what the closing process looks like. This is going to be for a resale property, and I do have a more in-depth version of the closing process. If anyone wants it, I'll put it in the description below, but we're going to just do a quick review here. So first and foremost, you're going to identify a property that you love, that you want to be yours, and you and your agent are going to prepare a purchase agreement. Now, with that, both parties will hopefully agree on it right away and countersign the agreement. This can all be done via DocuSign, by the way. It does not need to be done in person. So once both parties agree, then you are going to be introduced, both the buyer and the seller are going to be introduced to the closing company, and the buyer is going to put 10% into escrow, usually within 7 days. So it's standard here is 10%, standard is within 7 days. Fluctuates a little bit, of course, just depending on the agreement, but this is what you should be expecting. Fourth is contingencies are going to be reviewed and cleared. So once that money goes into escrow, then there is the due diligence period. And during this due diligence period is when there are the contingencies that are going to be reviewed and cleared. So contingencies can be anything like an inspection, a land survey, reviewing bylaws and rental management agreements to make sure the buyer agrees to it. Now, once the buyer goes through all the contingencies and everything looks good, then they'll move on to the next part. And that is when your deposit is going to become non-refundable. So that is really important. You are going to be committed at this point. So you want to make sure that you have reviewed all of those contingencies and that everything is agreed upon with the seller. Now, fifth step is the closing company is going to be preparing the closing paperwork, and they do need to mail physical documents to both the buyer and the seller. So this sometimes takes a few weeks. Now, about 7 days before closing, the agreed upon balance is going to be put into escrow. I put agreed upon balance there because sometimes somebody may be financing. If you're doing seller financing, then of course, X% of what you're sending is going to go into the deposit or into the escrow company. And then if you are doing cash, and that 90% balance would be put there into the escrow company. Once the paperwork is received by the closing company, so both parties have signed it at this point, they'll confirm release of funds to the seller and the sale is going to be closed. So I do also want to highlight two more things here, but at this point, this is going to be when the sale is considered closed, and the closing company is going to give you the LRS number if you are a cash buyer. So the LRS number is a number from the lands department, which is the tracking number of where your paperwork is in the titling process. So it does take about 12 to 18 months to get that physical title, but with the LRS number, you have confirmation that the closing company has registered the paperwork, registered the sale with the lands department, and that you are the owner. Now, if you are financing, this is very important. If you are financing, the title does not typically get transferred over to you until the property has been paid off in full. So at that point, once the property has been paid off in full, once there is the transfer of the title, then that's when the closing company will give you the LRS number. So this is very important to note that if you are financing, you will not get that LRS number until the property has been paid off in full. Good news is if you do have the LRS number, there's a website you can go to. I'll put that in the description below as well. You can put in that LRS number at any point and you can see where your title is at in process. There are about 14 steps, I believe. It does take time. Please just make sure that expectation is set. It takes time to receive the physical title, but you have confirmation of the sale being registered with that number. So if you are financing though, you have the peace of mind of knowing that the closing company is there as the third party. They are the ones who are ensuring, they hold on to the physical title. So they're the ones who are ensuring that the seller does not sell off the property again. But coming back to Peter's question, on average, it takes about 4 to 8 weeks to close, to get to the point of receiving, we'll be done here at number 7, to the point of either receiving the LRS number or to start with the payments to the seller if you are financing. 4 to 8 weeks. I say this is on average. There are a handful of varying factors that can either make this go slower or faster, but here are some ones that you do have to consider. Holidays. We do have different holidays in Belize than in the States or in Canada. So when we have holidays here, the closing companies are closed, the banks are closed. Buyer and seller schedules. If you are traveling, do remember that we do have to send you, the closing company does send you hard copy documents for your wet signature. So if you're traveling, you just want to make note of that to the closing company, because they can try to send it to you before they send it to the seller, or whatever that case may be. In addition to that, contingency is getting cleared. Here in Belize, it is very, very difficult to get land surveys done in a timely manner. And if you are able to get it done in a timely manner, it typically costs a little bit more money than you'd be expecting. But if that is something that is important to you, then you just need to make sure that that is properly noted in the document, in your purchase agreement. Of course, the speediness of getting documents to the closing company. I understand everybody's very busy. We have tons of emails. We have tons of things going on in life. But in order to make sure that closing happens on time, you want to make sure that you're sending those documents to either the closing company or your real estate agent as they are being requested, and making sure that you are getting to them in a timely manner. Now, I want to make sure we're setting expectations properly, because this is something that I think in North America, we're not necessarily used to, closing going past the closing date. However, I will tell you, I've seen more closings here get delayed than I have in any other country that I've done real estate in. So I want to set these expectations properly for you. So first and foremost, do not plan to stay at your property until there is written confirmation that you have closed. Even if you're putting in the paperwork that you're going to be closing on December 12th, delays do happen. So if you book to come down here December 12th and you're not closed by then because of whatever varying factors that have delayed the closing process, then you're not going to have a place to stay when you come, right? Usually sellers are not willing to let you have the place to stay at as if it's yours at that point. So just wait until the closing is done for sure. You have that written confirmation. The closing company says, congratulations, you've closed. And then at that point, I would schedule your trip down. Now, if you are a seller who's offering financing rather, know that the monthly payments typically start the month after the sale closes. The monthly payments typically start the month after the sale closes. And I'm mentioning this because I know in the States, if it goes beyond closing, then the seller can collect interest. That's not really how it goes. That's not at all how it goes here. Here it starts, the monthly payments start the month following closing. And then last but not least, things happen. So sales do not always go through, even if they've gotten to the point of clearing the contingencies, delays happen. But just do make sure that you're communicating this with your agent, so that the agent can then communicate it with the other party and with the closing company. Communication is key. I know we have, like I said to you, there have been a lot of delays in closings for various reasons. Some who are using their self-directed IRA company, and they have checks and like physical checks that they need to deposit, and then storms come through. We had a bunch of clients who were from Florida, and over the last month, there were those 2 big storms that came through. So things happen, there are delays. Just please make sure you're communicating it so that everybody is on the same page. Now, with that being said, if you're planning to own property here in Belize, if you're planning to spend some time here in Belize, please do reach out to us. We have a fantastic guide and many resources complimentary that we can email over to you. And if you're planning to come down here and interested in real estate, of course, reach out to us at Luna Realty Belize. We have an incredible team here in the country on Ambergris Key and Cayo who love to show you around and make sure you are finding the property that fits exactly what you are looking for. Thank you again, everyone, so much for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Hope you learned a lot from this session, and we look forward to seeing you here in Belize soon. Bye, everyone.